Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order Last Days of Europe as Omsk. Now, in the last video, our great leader, Karbyshev, has sadly passed on, and in his wake, we now have DB333, the new head of the Black League. Now, we're having some issues with, securing the capital. It turns out a lot of people, for whatever reason, aren't a fan of us. Because, we're actually going to make Russia an actual capable force of, being able to unite. And take out the dreaded Teutons. Was it Teutonic Order? Teutons, I think. I want to say. Evgeny Savinstev was the kind of man that you wanted on your side. A massive, aggressive brute, he began his career in the army as a special forces man. Trained in forced entry tactics, he was nevertheless not a quiet man. When he entered the room, you felt his presence. His feet could be heard stomping the hallway away. Still, the man was intelligent. Whenever DB333 was plotting or doing business, Savinstev was right behind him, plotting in tandem. The two were twins separated at birth, both able to come to the same conclusions at the same time. Some even dared to say they were friends, but that kind of talk was frowned upon for supreme leaders. A promising recruit, Savinstev poses a formidable challenge to anyone who sees the aging leadership of Omsk and decides that perhaps it would not be a hard state to topple. But we shall see, ultimately. Now, who can we raid? Pavel Odar, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and raid Pavel Odar. Existence is subjugation. Yazov let this line hang in the air for a few seconds before carrying on. It is a subjugation of reality to one's own desire to exist. Nothing can be achieved without such power. And without such power, one lives only at the mercy of those who are stronger. As grim a reality as it may be, we must recognize that there is no inherent right to existence, to life. We can only rely on ourselves. The simple fact is this: ideals have failed us. It is systems of ideals that place unworthy people in positions of power. The First World War, Russians bled and died for the sake of an incompetent man who had done nothing to merit leadership. In the Second, they did the same, only for different men. We've seen the products of such systems and paid the price for their failures. But no more. Yazov paused. He knew what was coming. His stomach clenched, but he knew there was no other way. It was what Karbyshev would have wanted. This is what he had to be. The Black League's sole objective is the survival of Russia in the face of the coming trial. To do this, we cannot make the same mistakes as our predecessors. Going forward, weakness in leadership will not be tolerated. I am hereby issuing a decree allowing for the removal from command of ineffective officers. From this day forward, any official, no matter how high-ranking, can be brought before a court-martial by the consent of 10 of his direct subordinates and another officer. The lawless wasteland permits only the strong to survive. We will bring this principle into our leadership in order that the new Russia we are building may be sharpened into a weapon which no amount of German bombs can break. We must make the Russian the apex predator of the Eurasian continent. This is your commander speaking. Our cause is just. Victory will be ours. Good night. And storm clouds loom above. As of this morning, the Black League garrisons in the outlying towns of Isilkul and Tara have done the unthinkable and openly rebelled against Omsk's authority. Seeing the overthrow of its newly minted Supreme Commander Yazov, the officer cliques have seized control of both towns in what is a clear bid to take command of the whole of the Black League. Those sons of bitches. While there is undoubtedly some reason being used by the officers to justify this revolt, at the time no formal statement has been issued. I can't initiate the raid yet, okay. In any case, such a pretext matters little. Yazov has made his intention to remove these aging, inefficient officers eminently clear. It can be assumed that the mutineers are fighting first and foremost for their own careers. Exactly who is in command of the revolt is unclear, while this uprising in Illiskul is reportedly headed by one General V.S. Abakumov, an NKVD veteran who joined the Black League in its early days. It is still uncertain who, if anyone, is actually leading the rebellion in Tara. Regardless, this turn of events represents a dire situation for the Black League as a whole, and it seems that the whole organization now hangs from the precipice. The desperate acts of selfish men. Comrades, Supreme Commander! Gunshots and shouts echoed from the floor below as internal security agents reasserted control over some cadres that had apparently gone rogue. I'm aware. He sent the aide out of the room with a wave of his hands as his mind roiled. If only Karbashev were here. I'm not ready for this, he thought, before swatting that errant thought out of his mind. Truth be told, while in the exterior he was quite adept at putting forth a brave face, within, the pressure was nearly overwhelming. He couldn't help but feel like a child dressed up in his father's war clothes, the weight of a world on his unready shoulders. These thoughts were interrupted when General Sakharovsky burst in. Glakovarik, we have work to do. So it would seem, Alexander Mikhailovich. Yazov replied, trying his best to exude the confidence that he lacked as he stood up from his desk and gathered his things. Mobilize everything we've got. Even the RSBs. Lock down the city. Once we're in control, we plan our next move. Sakharovsky nodded and summoned an aide. Yazov felt decisive. He imagined himself like Gorbachev, always in control, ready to run the gauntlet and come out unscathed. But within, he had no idea what was going to happen next. A step into the unknown. Well, for now, let's go ahead and raid Shadow Legends, the sponsor of today's video. The night the lockdown began in Omsk was a grand painting. Died forever upon the canvas of history. A sky of somber black was smeared over the city on that malignant night, punctuated only by stars and the blighted smoke that strangled their light. Omsk was, as it always was, a mournful husk of what it once had been, the shattered bones of an old world painted across the horizon, reaching up to the heavens, but forever trapped with the discarded people who had built them in a past age. But, over top of the city, and a layer of atmosphere was washed thick, air raid sirens painted it in broad strokes of opposition and fear. The wash of crackled words murmured through half-broken speakers, demanding the citizens return to their homes, mixed anxiety into the palate. Lower down in the dark bowels of the city, the composition was ongoing. Thousands of dark-clothed oppressors, each one a brush, painted their heavy boots across the streets. All those wide-eyed rabble viewing the great scene from their windows could do nothing but accept the artistry before them. Yazov had become the grand painter of the city, perhaps all of Russia, and soon the old guard would drown under a layer of vengeful black ink. And like a painting, the old guard shall hang. Fuck, that's a good line. Ooh, anarchy. You know, anarchy worked out. We paid our, got our stuff. None doubt that Yazov will emerge from the struggle as the undisputed leader of the Black League, except for a small amount of fools. Unfortunately, they happen to be well-armed and motivated fools. The routes out of the city have been blocked off and patrol routes through the countryside to catch any who manage to trickle out through less conventional means. Soldiers, enforcers, and bloodhounds sniff throughout the city, finding each and every stubborn pocket of the old guard. It costs to burn them out of their holes, but we are prepared to pay that price without complaint. With scores of soldiers surging into any traitor's bastions, we find it's only a matter of time before the city is ours. A new day for Omsk. So I'm wondering when we're going to unlock this stuff. Oh, there we go. The streets of Omsk are silenced once more. Dmitry Yazov, Herod Karbashev, and the newly installed Glakovarik of the Black League has defeated an initial attempt by conservative officer cliques to dethrone him and derail his plans for radical reform within the Black League. As the last Old Guard holdouts within Omsk itself surrendered to Loyalist forces and are led away to either Redemptionary Service or the Firing Squad, it seems that Yazov's new order has survived its first real test. As the dust settles in the Black League's capital, all eyes are now on the uprisings by conservative officers in the outlying towns of Issyk-Kul and Tara, which still threaten to strangle the Glakovrik's Darwinian vision in its crib. Survival of the fittest. Let's go ahead and check this out. Okay, so we got some we have time. We're going to have to do this first and finish this off. Let's get working on some focuses. What do we want to do exactly? I'm thinking rebuild the railways. Great way to start. Omsk infrastructure has fallen to disarray. Despite General Karbashev's pleading with the officers and the rabble, efforts to maintain our train lines and utilities were never carried out. This must end if our aim of transforming Omsk into the Black League stronghold is to be accomplished. Redemptionary Brigaders, in addition to their other duties, will be sent to repair the railroads, rebuild the roads, and fortify the homes. Some building slots and infrastructure. Brilliant additions. I'll take those in a heartbeat right about now. We're getting some extra political power, which is very nice. And I think we'll go ahead, try to infiltrate Issyk-Kul first. I think that's the move. We should have enough days to deal with the Old Guard, I want to say. Unless there's something after this, which in that case, we might not have enough time to tackle the Old Guard. I don't know. Next, let's tap the black gold. Omsk's fertile oil fields are perhaps one of our greatest advantages. For with this black gold, we are able to fuel our aircraft, our tanks, and keep our factories running as smoothly as possible. Efforts to exploit this region's reserves will be expanded and will receive additional resources. For if we are to properly preserve it for the future, we will need to take advantage of every opportunity that presents itself. There we go, that works for me. Let's go ahead. Who's the best? Sakharovsky's a loyal guy. What about Dushin? Is he any good? Not really, he's cautious, that's about it. We'll go with Boyanarov. Hopefully he doesn't turn out to be a traitor. And we'll go with good old Yazov as our field marshal. We'll assign all these guys to Ishim. Omsk, huh? Well, so much for our new fancy orders. Okay, we can go ahead. Let's tackle Tara. Yeah, we will. Let's train workers. And yeah, they can think they have it. How about that? How about that, big guy? Come on! No, that's not. Come on, come on, come on! Yelled the cadre leader over the ragged beat of boots on the dirt road. 408-966 forwards. For a moment he was back at Volokhomansk in 1940, fighting a losing battle against the oncoming German tide. And then a moment later he was on the outskirts of Tara once more, distant gunfire beating out a harsh tattoo in his ears. Cadre leader Pavlov's cohort was certainly not used to actual frontline combat, let alone men who had until recently been their sworn comrades in arms. Then again, combat wasn't exactly in their job description. Pavlov's cadre was a reserve cadre, known in Black League's parlance as a Chetyerovka, or 4, due to the fact that their 6-digit designations began with that number. Normally, such units, often composed of older soldiers seen as being past their prime, were relegated to the duties of keeping the non-league members in line, and making sure the civilians stayed quiet and met their production quotas. But today, as had the day before, it had not been an ordinary day. As he broke down the door of a gray, dreary civilian dwelling with the few chosen subordinates, Pavlov reflected on how utterly unthinkable the situation would have been only a few months ago. Men he had once would have died to save were now his mortal enemies. With a splash of dust, the rotten door split open, termites wriggling from its fragments on the ground as the reservists rushed in and corralled the building's occupants. The civilians cowered before him, and the black uniformed men were with a practiced ease sharpened by years of living under the Black League's protection. As usual, it didn't take much to make them comply. The end of a PPSH was excellent for loosening a person's tongue. Moments later, Pavlov had the targeted location and had rejoined the rest of his cadre back on the dusty road. The ring around Tara was almost complete. All in a day's work. Madagascar has gone ahead and collapsed. Who would have thought? Sophia had come to like the bombings. The grown-ups talked about them like it was a problem. The instructor of their youth cadre lectured them on how evil the Germans were and how their bombs killed outsiders on the surface. But Sophia didn't believe it. For one thing, she had never seen an outsider. She'd only heard stories, how they ate dirt, wore rags, and lived in holes in the ground, instead of barracks, without cadres or instructors. Vasya, the new kid, always cried whenever they told stories like this, but everyone knew they were true. Whenever the bombs came, the sirens would start to play, and the whole cadre would be sent down into the shelter beneath the surface. So instead of doing physical exercises or learning about the Germans, the children would run through the tunnels playing war, while the bomb sounds thumped up above, rumbling like soft thunder. But now these days were becoming rarer and rarer. Sophia and her cadre were now braving the outdoors more and more often, and these coveted playtimes beneath the earth became less and less frequent. Lectures on the Germans had become more frequent, and physical drills in the proving grounds were becoming the new norm, only occasionally interrupted by few lonely aircraft in the sky. Playtime is over, it seems. Some more political power and some more stability. That stability is very nice. Our numbers are now above ground, I guess. Which I'll take. Vacuum tube computing sounds like a nice little pickup. We'll go ahead and grab that. And then it's probably a good idea to undo Bukharin's mess. The man who lost the last trial, Nikolai Bukharin, entertained the foolish dreams of economic prosperity as a result of a so-called Siberian plan, a program with which the East would become an industrial stronghold to rival the great powers of the world. Though perhaps some of our eastern neighbors have reaped the rewards of a general secretary's fantasies, the men and women of the Black League have only reaped the German bombs rained upon their homes. Nevertheless, the idea of mass industrialization is not a poor one. Some small remnants of Siberian plan here east of the Urals still stand. We shall use these relics of bygone era to transform Omsk into a fortress factory, one that will churn out the instruments used to defend Russia one last time. There we go. That is what I need right about now. The men stood by the sill, calmly, and waited their turn to jump. Out with the crash. Alright then. We could raid this Omsk, it looks like, if we wanted to. I'm kind of good, honestly. I'm going to pass on that. Okay, we're undoing his mess. Ooh, industrial reforms would be good, but we're going to have to hold off on that. Shit, what do we want to do? Honestly, these two would be good just for a stab in the war support. So we'll do that. Let's start with New Order. A new dawn has risen over Omsk in the League. For too long, we have been nothing but a petty officers' club, an undisciplined rabble constantly devouring, goring, battling itself. General Yazov's iron fist will be brought down upon the ruffians like a hammer. Anyone that dares stand against the New Order will be run into the ground. If General Karbashev made a mistake, it was that he was too merciful. There we go. What else are we going to do? I'm not interested in raiding Tomsk. We're doing pretty good with equipment-wise, I gotta say. Our industrial base could be better, but we're working on that. Poverty rate going down isn't the best, but Oh, okay. Falukin. In accordance with General Order GL001, Special Arbitration Cadre 055081 concludes. Falukshin Konstantin Nikolaevich of Cadre 000002 is found guilty on all counts of abuse of military authority and dereliction of collective duty. Defendant is hereby removed from his position and remained to the custody of internal stability. Cadres responsible for his detention have temporarily been placed under the direct command of Lavkovarik D.T. Yazov in order to prevent a conflict of interest. Recommended sentence is indefinite redemptionary service. The cadre finds that Falukshin did on numerous occasions willfully and knowingly utilize his command authority to advance a personal agenda, and concludes that he pursued prosecution against no fewer than 16 of his own subordinates with no lawful cause without conducting an investigation. Investigation by this cadre suggests that several of these individuals had personal disputes with him, making this an abuse of the authority under Article 56 of the Code of Military Justice. The cadre further finds that Falukshin engaged in behavior which is classified under Black League military law as cliquism and dereliction of collective duty under Codex Article 13, Section 1, and deliberately and knowingly kept critical information regarding anti-national activity from his then lawful successor, Lavkovarik D.M. Karbashev, with an eye towards instead providing such information to his own ex-NKVD acquaintances. The cadre nominates one Drozudov Yuri Ivanovich, presently of Cadre 040110, to replace him, pending the approval of the defendant's immediate superior. Approval granted. Beautiful. Get that guy out. Get this guy in. Ooh. We just need to get rid of Karkaden. Now let's go over why we fight. The officers have forgotten why the League was founded in the first place. We're not just a mere breakaway from the West Siberian People's Republic, nor one of Rokossovsky's idealists. We are soldiers of the Black League, and our only goal is to survive what is to come. The Germans will march once more, and their goal will be the total and physical annihilation of every Russian man, woman, and child. We cannot, must not, let this come to pass. The simple truth is why General Yazov must stamp out resistance so brutally. The only other option is a jackboot on our throats. More support for ultranationalism, which is very nice for us. And then we can scavenge for some loot. And first off, let's head over to here. Prepare for this raid. I've not seen the city so busy since the days of the Union, and I've lived through some shit. Bogdan huffed as he swept the streets, the detritus of the Morning League's drills still littering the gutters. Even a lowly dog's body such as him could feel the energy in the air. Vasily, a man Bogdan would call more than an acquaintance, but not quite a friend, not in agreement. This new man, Yazov, he's really got it all planned out, hasn't he? I guess the Black League's got tired of biting at its own heels. Unless you want a one-way trip to the Redemption Brigades, you'll bite your damn tongue. Bogdan's eyes cast his eyes askance, but they appear to be alone for the time being. I may be a humble man from humble birth, but even I can see things are changing here. It used to be that you could sweep these streets in peace as long as you threw a salute to the League when they came your way. Now I see them everywhere, eyeing me up and down, like they're evaluating whether I'd be better as a frontline infantry or as bloody cannon fodder. Which I guess is the same thing. Vasily gave him a woefully naive look. Every city needs civilians, Bogdan. Surely we'll find a use for you that isn't quite so bloody. As he spoke, a platoon of League cadres, or League cadets, came marching down the streets. Their eyes were steel, devoid of any emotion, behind pure determination and the slightest hint of rage and hate. The two civilians stood aside as they passed, and Bogdan dropped his voice to a resigned whisper as he spoke again. These aren't just broken men anymore. They have one purpose in mind, and that purpose has no place for men like me. No place for civilians, unless I'm holding a gun. Even the dregs will serve the League. Well, there we go. Yes! Get him out of here! In accordance with General Order GL001, Specialist Arbitration Cadre 057, 235 concludes. Karkardin Alexander Ivanovich of Cadre 000002 is found guilty of willful inefficiency in the exercise of his duties. Defendant is hereby removed from his position and remained to the custody of internal security until position for long-term reassignment has been determined. Recommended sentence is indefinite redemptionary service. The cadre finds that the defendant did on numerous occasions resist the implementation of broad doctrinal reforms and new combat tactics, many of which had at the time already been proven effective in frontline skirmishes with Pukrishkinite fighters. On account of this failing, League forces under his command sustained heavy casualties in skirmishes with bandits. This is found to be in direct violation of General Order GL001 and actively harms the ability of the Black League to fulfill the program of national action. Decisive action is thus warranted to protect the interests of all Russia. The cadre nominates one Bitorvanov Evgeny Petrovich, presently of Cadre 040199, to replace him, pending the approval of the defendant's immediate superior. Approval granted. Get him out of here! There we go, that's better. Ooh, that infrastructure construction speed is pretty nice. So we know where we fight. Now let's honor the old general. General Karbashev was, in the beginning, the light of the League, its guardian, teacher, and father. Though some may have forgotten this, General Yazov is not. The sacrifices of those who came before must be honored and remembered, and thus, in a rare action that is not dedicated to preparation for war, General Yazov has ordered a memorial to General Karbashev be built in the center of Omsk, so that all may honor the general whose sacrifice will one day be the salvation of all Russia. Well, there we go. We can go ahead and institute the raid. I'll wait till it's a bit closer, and hold on, speaking of close, Yazov, it seems, has successfully run the gauntlet. In contrast to revolts in Issyk-Kul, which ended in gunfire and internecine street warfare before Black League liquidators swept the city clean of those who challenged the Glavkorek's authority, the revolt in Dara has died peacefully. The news of Abu Akimov's death, the collapse of the Issyk-Kul Pusht, seems to not faze Batar conspired. Wait a minute. I think we're a little out of time here. What? The defeat of the Old Guard forces and subsequent encirclement of the city certainly has. The revolt's leaders have now run up the white flag at truce and have agreed to surrender Yazov's forces in exchange for any potential death sentence being commuted to a redemptionary service. Though it remains unclear whether the Glavkorek actually intends to honor this pledge. Regardless, it seems the Old Guard's rebellion has finally ended. Thus always to traitors. Now let's infiltrate Issyk-Kul. I guess we already know how that's going to go, but, yeah. In this moment, lying prone in a segment of sewer pipe on this 5th floor of a construction site that laid hollow since days of Bukharin, and Kennedy felt oddly comfortable. Not physically, it was cramped, damp, and smelled of mold, but in a more existential sense. This kind of war, the kind he now felt himself immersed in, was something he could rationalize and understand. The last few weeks of chaos and civil disorder had been a disorienting, vertigo-inducing sequence of events for Inno Kennedy, a veteran of a failed effort to reclaim West Russia of the 50s. The war that was now being fought was nothing like the one he'd seen waged 10 years ago. The conflict within the Black League came and went in fits and starts, with brief engagement interspersed within long, endless hours and days of tension and speculation. The front lines seemed to appear and disappear at will, as political machinations within the higher ranks made foes suddenly become friends and vice versa. Rarely could Inno Kennedy enjoy the adrenaline rush of a straight fight or the feeling of a well-executed infiltration, but today was such a day, and as he looked at the bunker complex a few broken city blocks away, he couldn't help but feel quite pleased with himself. A distant thud from within the compound let Inno Kennedy know that his work had come to bloody fruition in one way or another. The handoff explosive-laden briefcase last night had gone off without a hitch, and it seems that his contact had successfully set off a device, at least. It wasn't until he pointed signal, a staccato series of 6 gunshots in groups of 3, that Inno Kennedy knew that Viktor Abakumov was dead. Target liquidated. There we go. Beautiful. The industrial buildup is okay. The rest of these are kind of though. Let's do a chance of redemption. We must not forget the original purpose of the Redemptionary Brigades. They are not a dumping ground for petty political rivalries, but a chance for those who have committed crimes against Russia, or those who aided the Teutons in the past, to redeem himself through the shedding of blood. Henceforth, General Azov has declared that the course of the Redemptionary Brigades will be righted immediately. Across the lanes of a league, thieves and criminals will be given this new start, as will any other lost souls we may find in the future. The one exemption for this benevolent rule is, of course, the Germanic Teuton. After all, you don't give a disease a chance to redeem itself. You stamp it out. We have lost a great man. A few in the Simplest Hall sat with their heads in their hands. Some, it seemed, may be weeping. Karbashev, or as so many of you knew him, Dmitri, was a mountain of a man. He was a man who seemed prophetic in his vision, in his beliefs, in the very way he carried himself. One could not tell at the surface if Azov was really crying. But we must not mourn his life with funerals and pleasantries. If Mr. Karbashev was here today, do you know what he'd want us to do? Do you know what he would be pained not to see us do? He would want us to prepare for the great trial. And prepare we must, men. Prepare for our lives. Prepare for vengeance. And prepare for what he believed must be true. What an end of a speech. The command cadre burst into applause, slow and frightened. We'll do it now. They refuse tribute. Well, that's how they want to do it. They can do it like that. Damn. Okay. Make it quick, why don't you? Luckily they kept the general there. We have to reassign. What do we got? Stability, war support, and some more rifles. I'll take that. I'll fund agriculture, actually. I mean, we gotta feed the soldiers that we're about to send en masse to the Germans to be killed. You know, at the very least, give them enough energy to make it that far. From here, let's get some new tactics going. The officer cliques, with characteristic idiocy, commanded the Redemptionary Brigades as a horde of meat shields. It was not uncommon for entire units to be wiped out in a single charge, for ill-equipped men to be sent against a far greater foe. This is not redemption, this is execution. The Redemptionary Brigades will be made to fight as soldiers fight, not a peasant mob. Though they are still ultimately criminals seeking salvation, perhaps with better training, they will easily be able to prove themselves. All I'm saying is I like things better when we spent all day chopping down trees, and all the new arrivals were washed-up politicians and bureaucrats that pissed off the wrong person. These new guys look like criminals. You're telling me you would prefer to spend the rest of your life tolling away in a prison camp and not have a chance to work your way out of here? Hey, back in the prison camp, there wasn't a really real chance we were gonna die. Now we're basically cannon fodder. And anyone who accidentally survives might get promoted into the Black League. Hey, we're not cannon fodder. We get treated almost as well as regular soldiers. This may come as a shock to you, Andreev, but they're cannon fodder too. Hey, saying shit like that is how you wound up here in the first place, eh? You act like I don't know that. I just wish we were still allowed to actually work off our debt to the League, rather than having to risk dying for it. Are you saying you wouldn't lay your life down for rushing the League? You know what? The commissar is around, so fuck it. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. They always tell us how important it is that we be to make the ultimate sacrifice for our motherland. But what was Russia giving me? I was born in a bunker. Grew up hiding from bombs and raiders, and before I was fully grown, I'd been shipped to a concentration camp because I have a big mouth. You haven't lost it. I'm well aware of that, Andreev. Well, I just want redemption. And now the service brigades actually offer that. And I just don't want to die. Picky. Drums beat heavy. Got some new tactics. Next, let's go ahead and equip the auxiliaries. Old manufacturing rifles, jerry-rigged machine guns, and poor rations are a common sight on the front lines of redemption brigades. Because of the, frankly, abysmal conditions of their equipment, the brigades are simply cannot fight as well as they might have been if given better rifles. General Yazov has thus ordered the brigades receive any surplus equipment, quality weapons, and better rations. Though they will never be as well equipped as the soldiers of the League, the Redemption Brigader will nevertheless be equipped to withstand the coming horrors. Probably not a bad idea for that. Okay, next let's go ahead and go with Fortress Omsk. If we are to survive the battles ahead, Omsk must become a fortress city like the likes of which the world have never seen. The bunkers underfoot, already a great boon when the bombings fly overhead, will be expanded to fit even more citizens. The border forts that protect us against the forces of Kaganovich will become even more impenetrable. When the work is done, the entirety of a German army could throw itself upon our walls, but they will not fall. No, the Germans will only meet death. That's what I'm talking about. Ked has been elected, it seems. Status quo wins out. Well, I can think of worse ways. No, worse elections, I guess. Alright, exit out of there. Let's go ahead and do Plain Hydra. With some former officers in the League acting with reckless abandon, considering themselves immortal and irreplaceable figures, General Azov is no such fool. A stray bomb, a misfired rifle, a target assassination, or even a simple sickness are all deadly threats that could snuff his life out at any moment. Thus, this necessitates the creation of what has been unofficially dubbed Plain Hydra, a comprehensive contingency for the general's death. A clear and simple line of succession has been created, as well as a detailed plan for the creation of insurgency cells should the great trial ultimately be lost. We will not go quietly into that good night, for if you cut off one head of a Russian serpent, two more shall take its place. There we go. let's say, scores 1, okay? Every day, there were new tunnels, new bunkers, new signs that war would soon come to Omsk. Dozens of officers were personally supervising every industrial cadre as they pumped out more cement for the construction, and it had been laid in enormous sheets for command centers, armories, quarters, hangars, and all the requisites of a fortified city. This place was to be the shield that defending the Black League from all aggressors. Any attacker would be shot at from 5 different angles, as the city planners had intended. Reinforcements could be rushed via tunnel to weak points, and ammunition could be flooded to any part of the garrison that needed it. The city of Omsk was now a death trap for invading armies, if ever they came. To most, it was just a grim reminder of the fate that awaited them should they fail in their duty. And then, we shall not fail. Oh god, the fucking Krasnoyarsk is beating Kemerovo. What the fuck? The new regime in Omsk now takes another step towards consolidation as the officers Pushin Exekul collapses into anarchy with the death of its leader and sole unifying figure, Viktor Abakumov. So he dealt with the old guard, very good to see. At the hand of an assassin's bomb, an NKVD man who found in Gorbachev's ideals of strength and renewed Russia attractive for all the wrong reasons, it's unlikely that many outside of the officers' cliques he held together will mourn his passing. Within hours of Abakumov's death, tension among his shell-shocked co-conspirators seemed to have boiled over into open warfare. With gunfire reported inside of Isilkul, Black League units were able to sweep in and mop up any remaining resistance with relative ease. Azov's dream lives on for another day, but there is no rest yet for the Glavkoverk. A revolt still festers in Tara. Actually, should we tell him about that? There we go. Against all odds, yeah, Azov's gambit to assert control over the Black League has worked. The streets of Omsk, Iksikul, and Tara once again fall silent, as the loyalist forces liquidate the last rebel strongholds. Gorbachev's dying wish to crush those that perverted his vision has been fulfilled, though it remains unclear as to what extent Yazov's vision of the League's future aligns with that of its predecessor. With Abakumov and most of the rest of the old guard either dead or in hiding, Supreme Commander Yazov now has near unlimited power to reshape the Black League as he sees fit. Every officer in the League must now watch their back and work their hardest lest they fall prey to the newly instituted efficiency investigations and find themselves demoted or worse. The League, it seems, is on course for major change, though only time can tell whether this will be good or bad. Siberia holds its breath. Whew. Yeah, this is all starting to come together now. We'll plan a raid, scavenge for loot. We could do some build-ups, but I'm going to save political power because I know we're going to need it. I mean, maybe an industrial build-up would be okay. But even that, I'm kind of about. I mean, it could be nice, or it could, you know, blow up in our fucking faces. So I'll wait until there was like 10 days left. Yazov felt uneasy. He held nothing but respect for his late mentor, but Gorbachev's death had exposed his greatest failure. He had given his life to build the Black League from nothing, but in his dogged efforts to save Russia, he had allowed the League to become reliant upon him to hold it together. Even with Yazov as his designated heir, the old generals had seized Gorbachev's passing as their opportunity to attempt to break free. Yazov knew that the League could not survive another succession crisis. Without him, the Black League would collapse from within and without. All of this would have been for nothing. Russia would be doomed. Yazov resolved to not to repeat the mistakes of his mentor. The Black League was bigger than any one man, and the Motherland's salvation could not depend on him alone. What the League needed was reorganization from top to bottom. The League would become an entity unto itself. Even its most prominent members were merely small parts of a great leviathan that would see Russia avenged. Yazov called his counselors and generals to his office. By the time they arrived, he was already hard at work. They had labored long into the night until the plan was complete. They sent out the first orders the very next day. Every officer of the Black League was to nominate a successor to maintain the chain of command should he be incapacitated. A secondary successor should his first choice be incapacitated as well. Every position from field marshal to sergeant would be required to have 2 levels of contingencies ready. The frontline troops would not be spared their share of responsibility. It would be their duty to prepare themselves to fight without their officers, to continue the League's struggle even if their leaders cannot. The soldiers would obey their commanders, but they would fight for the Black League, because as long as the Black League existed, Russia could never die. For everyone destroyed, 2 more shall arise. And I think with that, and with only one last focus left here, I think it's time to cut it, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. More uploads every weekday, as well as sometimes Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, go ahead and leave a comment section below. I read all the comments again. Appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat, play games, anything of the sort, I have a Discord down link below. If you want to send some bucks my way, I have a Patreon. If you want to watch me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch, all of which are down in the description box below. That's really about it, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been DB333, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.